Hello. I finally um, found time to do this video. Well, first I want to thank, I don't know if I'm going to mispronounce your name. I'm sorry. I'm from Peru, so my mother tongue is Spanish. Thank you, Danae or Danae, for creating the group. It's funny because um, I've been thinking lately, I had been thinking, like, there are so many stories that I want to share, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know whether I should do it in Spanish or in English. And I just feel at home in this community, actually, entering to humanities team. It's been a, a blessing for me. So I'm really grateful for that and for all the people that I met. Well, this time, I guess the video that I wanted to make is about my experience with healing plants. Being from Peru and living in Peru got me really close to my origins. I mean, we come from the Incas, right? And all these civilizations that were before them. And well, using plants for healing, such as ayahuasca or San Pedro, which is peyote, I believe in English, or which the translation would be Saint Peter in English. And having these plants very accessible to me was really good to know in a part of my spiritual journey. I didn't start reading about spirituality as part of my journey. I started with coaching. I became a life coach, but I knew that I had some ability or paranormal abilities, but I didn't really paid attention to them. And but I felt that the coaching, the life coaching, got me to a point where there was like a limit. There was something else that my soul was craving. So I started to study transpersonal coaching, uh, and I became an energy healer and all that. And my first spiritual experience, let's say, was with Akashic Records. But I still, in a way, my mind wouldn't want to, believe, or I had doubts. And so a friend of mine told me that he went to a San Pedro session and that he was healing, but I didn't want to go like for a year because I was just scared of drinking something. But then it came to a point that I knew that I wanted more emotional freedom, that my soul was yearning for something, that I decided to, try it. So I guess I'm just gonna tell you what I found out, but I was wondering that for people um, for people wondering if this is a path that I would recommend, I will say yes and no, in a way that I totally believe that now that at that part of my life, I needed that. I mean, it was the path of least resistance, as Abraham Hicks will say. I mean, I was yearning for something, but my mental was too intense. So I guess I needed something to shut my head down. I mean, in the healing plants world, they say that it's called Saint Peter or San Pedro or peyote because it has like the keys to heaven. So what I think it does is it completely mutes your ego and kind of like you don't have thoughts, negative thoughts. So physically there's a chemical reaction that physically makes your um, inner chatter mind just shut down so the divinity can flow through you. So would I do it again? Yes, but I wanted to tell you also that, for example, I was gonna go and do ayahuasca last week because I'm a person that likes to try and that likes to go to the extreme. I mean, that's the way I learned. I'm very kinesthetic. So, but I had a session and my guides told me that I was just trying to speed things up by going and do ayahuasca, and I was told that it was I had free choice, but I I they were advising not to try to rush things up. So when I heard that, it made complete sense to me because I wanted to kind of get clarity in things. And if I'm honest with you, at that time, I thought that was the only way for me, knowing me and how my mind thinks. But now I truly believe that you can reach such altered states of mind without ingesting anything because I've done it. So, I mean, I would say is a good start if you're very mental, but I wouldn't recommend you doing it like depending on it. I don't believe in any kind of dependency, and I don't believe we need something uh, to ingest something to get to God. But at the end of the day, there's nothing right and wrong. So I guess if you think you need it, then just go for it. I think the problem is when you develop a dependency. But the beautiful gift is that actually I found out that I could, access that kind of alter state without having to eat or drink anything. So how does it feel? I mean, it's a ceremony that a shaman does. I'm also a shaman, but at that point I wasn't one. That was also part of my journey, and I guess I'm gonna have to make another video about that. And so the first experience that I had, I drank it and I felt nothing, and then you kind of feel like something's racing, and it's like you're going uphill in a mule. Let's say people describe it that way, like it's like a journey. And once you reach the top, then you stay there for a long period of time in a state of being that I would say it's your who you really are. Because I remember actually looking at my hands and seeing them vibrate and actually believing that if I could just go through the walls, and it was really cool to experience energy in that sense. I mean, I've always been sensitive to energy but not quite visual with it. So um that was the first thing. And I remember um having this sense of belonging to everything, like being part of the group. Being born gay in a third world country uh, hasn't been easy for me, and for some reason, I never developed this body sensation that I belong somewhere. I just felt like there's something wrong with me, or I don't belong to this group, and right away, I felt that I belong to the world or to the universe as part of a unity, and that made me cry. That made me cry because it wasn't a concept; it was a physical sensation. So it was really, this is how it feels like. What everybody says, you know. I I knew, I mean, in a as a cliche that we were all one, and I've heard that before, and it was nice to, when you hear it is nice, and it's like a philosophy, it's a concept at first, at least it was for me. But having that expressed through my being and through my body, my physicality, it was a precious gift, and will never regret having done that because it made me feel God physically in my body. I felt like I was part of something. So I cried about that. And I have had many experiences with the plant, this plant in particular. So I'm gonna relate a few of them. I don't know if I'll have time to do all of them, but it was a first start, and I was very grateful. I want to also say that you're always in control. I mean, you can open your eyes and then you can just go to the shop and buy something. I will do that. And as I would do that, I would just, you know, kindly say to the other person, "Hey, how are you? Have a nice day. Thank you very much." And those were things that I wouldn't normally say. And at that point in my life, it was like 6 years ago or five, I was very selfish, and I was full of anger and stuff. So I wasn't really naturally nice, but for some reason, under the effects of the plant, I would feel that way. And I was just think, is this me or is this the plant? And now I totally believe that's me because I'm experiencing that now. I mean, I'm transformed, but that's for another video with my spiritual journey. But at that moment, the plant showed me that side of me, and it felt nice being love, like embodying love felt nice, felt who I really was. And so I had that experience. That was my first experience. Also, something else that happened is that when I looked at people's eyes, I will see them with a completely different perspective. I mean, the way I have to describe it is as if when I used to see somebody, I used to see first what I didn't like about them, or I would classify people like the same as me, or under me, or on top of me, if I am more than they are, or less, feeling more or less, never the same, right? And under the effects of the plant, I would just see beauty in everyone. I would see things that my mind would judge, but since my mind was off, I would just see everyone as being beautiful. And in a way, it's as I can describe it as if they transformed or enhanced right in front of me. I will see somebody and then I will focus on like the good aspects or things that I found beautiful about them, and then they will completely transform. And I would just see them really beautiful, and I really appreciate them, and that was also a very cool experience to have. It was to kind of prove to my mind, or kind of to tell my mind, this mechanism that you have to protect myself um, on uh, classifying people is not real. That's not who we are. We're all the same. We're beautiful, but we are different and unique at the same time. So that was a really cool experience to have. What happened is that the shaman invited me to return and to do more sessions with him, but not a, but to join him into the ceremony. So we would just guide the session, and I did this for a year. So I had a lot of sessions where I would do energy work, and it was really cool. It was a really fun experience. I'm not doing that anymore, um, but it was good memories. Um, so that was basically my first experience, and I also want to mention and that I had this moments where I would look at somebody's eyes and I would just know that I knew them from other lives. It was a sense of being family, and it's not with everyone, with some people in particular. That was very interesting. I would just look at people and say, I feel I know you from before. And there was people that I never saw in my life before that particular session. And they would just look at me and agree. There was no need for words, I would say. It was just, we would just like read each other. And everybody is go we there is no such thing as a collective process. Everybody was in their own processes, but we will have interactions. One of the most beautiful things that happened to me, and I think and I would just want to clarify, I don't think, I want to say again that I don't think you need to eat or drink something to have these kinds of experiences. I believe that it happened. Actually, no, because I've been told that it happened to me because at that point in time, that's what I needed, or that's why my belief system would allow me to, to drop down my resistance. So allow this experience to happen. I want to tell you one of the most important experiences. It was like, it is that I was born gay and without a father. He was absent since before my I was born, and my mother actually didn't like me being gay. She rejected me, and that was really painful for me. I actually that that has been one of my biggest wounds, if to put it in a word. Um, so in one session, the shaman, I started to see my mom's soul, and and right after that, the shaman, I don't know how. I mean, I do know how, but there was no logical explanation at that time. I mean, um, he started chanting this healing chants about birth and about mother and mother son relationship, Mother Earth, and my mom's soul would appear, and she told me, um, "You asked me, you wanted me to make you this way. You were born this way because you wanted to. You told me to do that. You made me do it." At that time, I didn't know anything about spirituality on souls and souls backs. I mean, I've heard some very vague stuff, and for me, it was just like, magical, blah blah blah. And but at that time, it was. She told me that her soul told me that, and I just knew it was true. And at that time, I started to cry, and I went back to the day of when I was born, and the shaman was chanting and singing, and I felt as if I was being delivered, in that moment. And at that time, into my mind, there was some sort of, I would say, channeling, or mm, it was a block of thought over energy that it would just pop into my mind, and it would tell me like life is like a like when a mother gives birth to a child, there is pain, but at the end of the day, you embrace the pain because love is at the end, or something beautiful is at the end. So I was I was feeling how my mom was giving birth to me, but then I will see the image of a doctor giving me to my mom, giving me away to my mom, and she rejected me, uh, rejecting me, and I will feel that rejection pain with a lot of intensity. It was really painful, and I would just cry as if I was being, killed or physically hurt, extremely hurt. I was just crying all out, and something inside me told me, you need to go through this, you need to embody this pain until it's done. So, and then at the end, when the pain finished, it was physically and emotionally so like soul pain. Then after that, I felt that the room was full of light. I could feel a very intense feeling of unconditional love, and I would just feel the love of my mother because I know she does love me. At that time, I guess my mind was telling me perhaps she doesn't. And Then I went to the bathroom and vomit, like as if I was vomiting poison or something negative. It was energy that I was vomiting that I needed to let out of my system. I won't lie and say that my relationship with my mother completely transformed with that ritual or that experience, because it improved a lot, but there is still other events that happen that actually help me finish with healing that wound. But I won't go into detail now uh, with those. But it gave me peace. It allowed me to change my perspective and see my mom from a different point. It allowed me to get more into spirituality, because I didn't only I I didn't only feel it in my body. I knew it. I knew it, that was my path, and I knew that I wanted to go through that experience with my mother. And now, if you ask me, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Because by contrast, I mean, knowing that level of rejection, which is an illusion, allows me to know what it feels like to love myself, to feel the love, unconditional love from somebody that actually doesn't like some parts of me, but I still feel unconditional love for my mother. She might never change her mind. I mean, our relationship is very good now, but that doesn't mean that she completely embraces who I am, because she doesn't, but it doesn't hurt me anymore. So after that session, my experience with my mom changed, and I told her what she told me, what her soul told me, and that also allowed me to open new room for a spiritual conversation with my mom. Her process is slow, but it's perfect, and that was a very very cool experience to have. I mean, it was very healing. It was what I needed at that time, and I want to repeat. I don't think it happened because of a drug or because of a substance. It was just something, that trick that I used to hack my mind and to get it out of the way, so the truth would just come through. Um, Another really really cool experience that I had while doing those sessions is what I call the day when I went to heaven. I took six of my friends and we went to have a session. And in one of the sessions, well, first I want to make clear that not everybody lives the same experience with the same intensity. I guess, well, I know it depends where you're in your spiritual process and where you're asking. So the universe is responding, right? So everybody's process is different. And when I went to heaven, what I say when I went to heaven, it was the day that I took five or six friends of mine to the session. It was a private session with a shaman, and I just saw everyone, as I told you, as being perfect. But this time there was something different. For example, I had a shy gay friend that will not embrace his masculinity. But for some reason, my vision of him at that moment, it was completely masculine, rooted be man. It was so everything that we thought we weren't, in my vision, they were everything they thought they weren't. So I had a friend that was very, she was always told that she was very masculine. She was a female friend, and she was very masculine or very, harsh. But she was just this yin energy and very soft and very embracing, and it was, and we all described that that's what happened in that session. We all described that we perceived ourselves as something that we thought we weren't. And I remember touching my body and feeling an athletic body. I always had weight issues, and I had problems with my body. I didn't love it the way it was. My skin was loose, but somehow in that session I felt fit, physically fit, and that was really cool. I mean, it was cool in a way that I knew if I wanted to, I could transform into that, but I didn't need to the physical manifestation of that to feel that way, to feel rooted into the earth and completely responsible for my life and completely able to accomplish things, if I had to say it in a way, to put it into words. All of these are sensations, and I will say it's like my body learning. So I'm trying to put things into words. It's an experience more than a concept. And so what I saw is that we were all in a kind of an island, and there was a lake, and the island was where the souls in pure energy form were. We were there was no sense of time, no sense of rush, no sense of danger. We were safe, we were happy, we were just relaxing. There was nothing we had to do, and at the same time, it was like a game. We were just enjoying being ourselves, completely loving us and loving everybody else. That was also a very cool experience to have, like what it felt physically to love you completely and love somebody else. But I would see this lake where I would see souls like kind of spiraling, going like in a spiral down into the duality world or our world or the matrix. But right before that, we would choose like kind of a costume to put on and then go down. And that's what I learned, that we, our essence is inside uh, of a costume, basically. Mm-hmm. And it helped me to realize that that was a costume that I chose. Nobody assigned that to me. There was no God telling me you have to do this, or this is your test, or that's something that I wanted to choose. My where I was born, um, my sex, my sexual preferences, how who was gonna be my family. So I had this sense of control on my experience, but at that moment it was like I chose this for a reason, and that gave me a sense of purpose, and that gave me a sense of control and responsibility too. It was really cool to see. I also want to mention that um, when I was 16, my grandmother, I was very close to her. She was like my mom, and I felt lots of love for her. And I suffered a lot when she departed. And I will think about her, I will channel her without knowing it. She will just give me messages, but I didn't want to acknowledge that it was her. I will tell my mom and my family, but at the same time, I wouldn't take responsibility in a way to saying like she appeared, but I am not a psychic, or I don't have these abilities. She's just doing it for me. But I felt like I was attached to her and I wouldn't let her go. So one day she came down. This was another day, and I was very young, and she told me that she was okay, she wasn't suffering. But I was doubting that it was my mind, or some days I will be sure that it was her, some others I wouldn't. And while I was in heaven, I mean, when I say heaven, it's in outside the matrix. I saw her soul, and the sensation that I didn't want to run to see her or to touch her or to grab her or to say anything to her, because I felt that she had always been there and she was always going to be there. It's like not having to worry about time because she was always going to be there. So it was, I was surprised of myself because I knew she was there. I knew she was looking at me. I knew, and it was like a high without saying anything. It was just being there and knowing that we will always be there. It was kind of weird at that time. Now I understand it because I have a spiritual background and, you know, a journey. But at that point, it was like, it was very healing because it helped me uh, to feel this direct connection, to feel that she wasn't gone, that there was something else. And that was a very cool also experience to have. I mean, to see this was way before I started reading spiritual books or anything. I was just looking into at that time shamanism and stuff like that, but I wasn't really into this new spirituality. So I was learning things, but in a way that it was useful for me because, as I said, I am very kinesthetic and I need to feel things in my body. I guess it's because when I was a child, I wasn't touched that much, so I need to experience things to learn from that. So that was very healing for me, and that day I realized that I was a spiritual being. I was eternal. Everybody is, and we want to we choose to come here, and not as a test, but as a kind of a game, as a kind of, let's play that we are not what we are, so we find out who we are, something like that. I don't know how to put it into words, but it was kind of like, you don't have to take it so serious. You're just enjoying and playing and rediscovering who you really are. And I guess in this video, I'm going to tell you about a third experience that I had. I went into, when I was 30, well, it was 2 years ago. I went into my first serious relationship, and it was very intense. It was very dramatic and at the same time healing because there were two stages. I consider him my really a really good teacher or in my life. He taught me a lot of stuff about myself, about love, about life by being who he was. And but at that point we broke up. We had like our first broke up, and I was feeling very guilty. And I was told first, and that in that session, for some reason, I started, as I was reading about shamanism and the energies of animals and stuff. I guess it's because of that. I guess the universe uses what you know, your knowledge to, or you translate what the universe sends you according to your knowledge. So I guess that's why uh, it's like a point of reference. So I started to act as a jaguar, as a feline. And there was a voice inside of me telling me, you don't, you don't roar uh, because you compare your voice to the others, and you don't think that what you have to say is equally valuable. And so you need to learn to roar and to respect and not to criticize how you talk, how you speak, how you roar. And I I remember that in one point of the ceremony, I was in the middle of the room and I just went raw. And it was very liberating, that roar, because it was like, this is my voice. I have a place in the universe. I deserve it. And it cannot be compared to anything else. I'm unique, and that's okay. And everybody has the right to be who they are. And that was a very, very cool corporal experience to have. And at the same time, I felt a lot of guilt for things that I did to my ex boyfriend. And I had this vision, and they told me the relationship was perfect because as you are becoming a feline, a jaguar, you made him become that too. He's starting to fight back and to not to be abused or to not to allow things that go against what he believes, just not to be alone, just not to feel lonely. So you kind of, in a way, help him to train him. You train him into defending himself with everything that you did to him, but also with everything that you talk to him. Because I would talk to him a lot about spirituality and healing and stuff. And at that moment, I I saw the relationship and I saw this source perspective and how everything was perfect and we were perfect for each other and we learned from each other, and I just started crying because guilt disappeared. I felt that I fulfilled like an agreement that we had from before we came to this world, and that it was perfect. So and I felt that I wasn't being judged by source or by God. And that was very healing for me. That was very liberating. And it made me see the relationship as the source saw it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders and it was very freeing. I believe those are the most important experiences that I had while doing these sessions. As I say, and I want to repeat it again, I don't think you need to ingest anything, but if you feel at some point that that's the way you want to go, then it's fine. I mean, who's gonna judge us? Source doesn't do that. So, but it's also good to listen to your guides. I mean, they told me you can go and have ayahuasca next week, but we don't recommend it because you're trying to speed up something that it's already happening. So you just trust. So I decided not to do it, but in the future, perhaps I'll do it. I'm a kind of person that wants to likes to have experiences, different experiences. I don't have fear for if I believe something can get me to the next level, I would just try it. And but now I'm realizing that just asking God or asking the source is enough because the way is just gonna appear if I allow it. And well, I guess those are my experiences with that plan, San Pedro. And it also helped me into becoming a health energy worker because I was practicing shamanism and energy work, and but I will do it in the middle of the session. So I would co-create with people really, really intense experiences, like kind of exorcisms, like kind of I will see energy and I will see entities and channeling. It it was a door for me to enter to my abilities. I don't need to ingest anything to do energy work now, but I guess at that point I do needed that also to become who I was to become. So I'm really grateful with the universe. With that, I don't think I've been chosen for that. I think that's something that I want to. I remember having a ceremony where I will just write the six uh, things that I love the most, and I would just burn the papers and saying, "You can take away everything from me, but I want to know what it feels like to be emotionally free and to feel completely free." Freedom is a word that is very close to me. So I guess the universe delivered what I asked. And if you ask, the universe is going to deliver to you. But that's a completely different chapter, I guess, or for a reason for another video. I have so many more stories to tell. And excuse me if the video is too long. And this is my first video. So, but I'm really glad that at least I get to share all of this. And I'm open to questions. And well, I'm the coordinator for a humanities team in Peru. And I'm really glad to belong to this community. So thank you so much for this group, especially because um, this is something that I've been trying to talk about for a long period of time, and I finally found a platform. And I truly believe that this is going to be seen and heard by the people that need to, or, everything is a synchronicity and it's perfect. So um, I guess this is going to go to where it needs to go. And thank you for the opportunity. I love you all so much. Thank you and bye.